So somewhat of a powder keg that might have been sparked by Tunisia, or
Tunisia, I think, was the spark.
okay, okay,
Pretty clearly.
the self-immolation and the
But
following revolution.
what happened in Egypt was something I think everybody who knows a lot about Egypt has predicted, but it's like predicting an earthquake in Southern California. You know it's coming, but you just never have any
really
idea when.
Prepared for it. Yeah, exactly. And then in terms of the elections, we were talking about the Brotherhood, and they've been banned since the 1950s, correct? Or
I don't know
from
since when, but as long as I can remember.
For a long time.
And the excuse is that they're organized as a religious party. In other words, they're organized based on a religion, Islam, and Egypt, forbids the Coptic Christians to organize as a party as well. So, the practicality is that they've been the most vigorous, best organized political group, and certainly Mubarak and his regime have noticed that that makes the United States nervous, and they've used this as a wedge to continue doing what he's doing without too much criticism.
Yeah, and that was something I wanted to ask you actually was, they've remained officially off of the political map for decades now, even though if Brotherhood candidates were to run, they would probably pick up dozens of seats. But just over the weekend, I think just yesterday, you had people from the Brotherhood meeting with Vice President Omar Suleiman to discuss some kind of settlement with the Brotherhood and the protesters. So what do you really see as the role of the Brotherhood in any kind of future governing coalition? And do you feel that let's say, some of the fear or the hesitance espoused by some Western sources or Western government officials about a potential power grab by the Brotherhood is valid?
I think we have overestimated the power of the Brotherhood. This Tahrir Square revolution, if you will, is pretty much a secular event, as far as I can tell. The Brotherhood has been playing catch-up. They are trying to associate themselves with it, and I believe that any future stable political solution to this crisis will require including the Brotherhood. But I don't believe that they will dominate Egyptian politics. I don't believe it's going to be a situation where it becomes like Iran, where you have an Islamic government which fixes future elections. I think we want life to be simple. We want it to be good and be evil, and secular Islamists, but Egypt is much more complicated than that.
And as you noted, Mubarak would play off of that as a way of holding on to power. And even when he was speaking with, I think, Christian Amanpour recently, he said that he wants to go, but is afraid of what will follow his
It's troubling that both Mubarak and Omar Suleiman are talking about external agitation and trying to raise the specter that somehow everything was going fine in Egypt, but those nasty outsiders, those foreigners, are responsible.
Which
is silly.
And has been used before. You mentioned the kind of the popular element of this uprising, and a lot of people have pointed to, as you did too, the what's called the youth bulge, or the fact that approximately 60% of the Middle East, the greater Middle East, the population is under the age of 25, many of them educated with few job prospects. Now, do you think if this youth bulge was handled maybe more responsibly by a government in terms of economic reforms, that it could become more of an asset than a problem? And do you feel, it seems that maybe it goes without saying that the current protests are a result of this youth bulge. I mean, how do you see the massive amounts of people on Facebook, on Twitter, working with these new media, these young people on the streets? How does that play into all of this?
Yeah, the youth factor is huge in in the events in Egypt. I mean, you're right. I don't know what the average age of an Egyptian is, but it's well under 25. I'm pretty sure. And remember, Egypt has had relatively free education for anybody who wants it ever since Nasser's time. The problem is the quality of that education, and one of the resentments, I think, is that the well-placed Egyptians, well-educated Egyptians, can afford private schools, average Egyptian can't. The quality of instruction is relatively poor. Good Egyptian teachers tend to go abroad and teach there rather than teach in Egypt. So you have a lot of kids, young adults coming onto the labor market who really don't have the skills for the modern world. In the economy, you've got these structural rigidities, which you end up importing labor-intensive goods, and you have Egypt is perfect for labor-intensive industries like textiles and things like that. And so a lot of frustration. You've been educated, maybe not well, but educated enough.
Yeah.
Now you have the new technologies, the internet, Twitter, Facebook. Everybody has a cell phone. I mean, cell phones were relative novelty even the second time I was in Egypt in the late 90s. Now, even though people can't sometimes afford enough to eat, it seems like they have a cell phone.
Yeah, you go and buy a Vodafone card and text
friends. Middle Eastern governments have tried to fight this or tried to control it and just haven't succeeded. And it makes maintaining a authoritarian government just ever so difficult.
But then in the case of Iran in summer of 2009, to switch gears a little bit,
sure.
You have the use of technology as a way to bring the Green Movement together, but also the use by the government to track down members of the Green Movement, protesters, and use these technologies against them. So it seems, back in the early 2000s, maybe, or the late 90s, everyone was kind of praising the internet as a way to bring about maybe movements like this, but it seems to be more of a two-sided coin at the same time.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, technology is available to everybody.
Yeah.
And certainly, I'm sure a lot of people in Tahrir Square suspect that they're being monitored. I mean, I know I've been reading about how secret or plainclothes policemen, if you will, have been going around taking pictures, and so depending on how this crisis works out, technology may have played a deleterious role.
Well, it certainly hasn't been enough to quell the protests.
Yeah.
So, and I guess just to kind of round it up, I was thinking about how a lot of the protests and a lot of the vitriol is based towards a lot of these economic issues and the failure of the Mubarak regime to provide jobs. How realistic do you think it would be for a potential new regime if as many as reforms could be implemented to the greatest degree possible? Would that really be able to scale back food prices and unemployment? Or do you think the Mubarak regime is taking too much of a hit for that? I mean, where does the blame lie, and what realistically could be done in the future?
I think the economic issue could provide the international community with leverage to make this come out better than it might otherwise. Because if, for example, there's very little change, if, for example, the government cracks down, I think you're going to see, cuts in U.S. assistance, if not eliminating it altogether. You're probably going to see much less foreign investment. You will probably see international organizations pulling back. Whereas if a solution, and the military is going to play a role, there's no question about that, but if a solution is to really change government, to really open up the political process, maintain freedom in the press, open up the economy, make some structural reforms, there'll be a honeymoon for a new government like that. Which will give them, I think, space in which to really make some decent economic reforms. It won't be easy. I mean, Egyptians are not going to suddenly prosper overnight, but they have a lot of good things going for them. They've got a relatively educated labor force. They've got the canal and the oil and the tourism potential, and so they have the ability to really become a rapidly developing country.
And last question, if you were a betting man, would the smart money be on Mubarak lasting till September, or do you think he'll be out before then?
The short answer is I don't know. A week ago I predicted he'd be gone by now, and I'm hesitant to make a new prediction. He may well be there until September, but I think he doesn't really have his finger on the buttons anymore.
All right. Well, great. Thank you so much for sitting down with us, David.
You bet.
Thank you.